Ahsoka is the Force. At least that's the case when it's successor to George Lucas' Dave Filoni's storytelling in Star Wars. While at times known to overwrite critical moments in established Star Wars novels, and famously known for the success of the Clone Wars TV show, Filoni's writing and understanding of George Lucas' vision has done it again with the success of Tales of the Jedi. In part 1 of dissecting this miniseries, the primary focus was on Dooku, and as promised by the end of that video, this part will focus on Dave's baby, Ahsoka. I highly recommend to watch part 1 before continuing forward, as some things explained will be directly linked to it, and a link will be in the description. So now that I'm presuming you just watched part 1, let's get it. Yo. Originally an insert by George Lucas to the Clone Wars era lore, Ahsoka Tano has now become a fan favorite among the fandom menace. Although it wasn't always the case from her introduction to the Star Wars universe, watching her growth and development throughout the Clone Wars animated series has earned her the type of praise that certain characters failed to garner within the last decade. In a sense, her introduction and continual progression as a Star Wars character is kind of the blueprint for Omega from the Bad Batch. So it definitely is no surprise to see her as a focal point in this series alongside Dooku, given that development was primarily handled by Dave Filoni. And like Dooku, we received 3 episodes showcasing her life path before the Order, as a Padawan, then as a former Jedi. Yet unlike the episodes focused on Dooku, the names of the episodes for Ahsoka focus on critical lessons she learned, shaping her into a powerful extension of the Force. It's given to us straight from the get-go, being that the first episode of the series focused on her birth into the universe and what transpires during her first year of life, as her mother takes her on a hunt, but on their way she is teaching baby Ahsoka the natural order of the universe, which entails a relationship between life and death. Her mother's words to her to value and honor life, and to face death without fear, were the saving graces for her. These very words her mother instilled into her allowed Ahsoka in her infant state to tap into her natural affinity to wield the Force in order to communicate with the Sabertooth the moment it planned to devour her. The cultural customs and beliefs of the Togruta mirror the philosophy of the Jedi, for they too instruct to honor all life forms and in many cases are taught to accept death as becoming one with the Force. Therefore, this eliminates fear that can lead to the dark side. Henceforth, when Ahsoka returns to the village riding the Sabertooth, and her mother asks the village elder how could this be, it was no brainer that Ahsoka was a Jedi, and thus, the first lesson was learned. By the time we return to Ahsoka once again, is in episode 5, and quite frankly is my favorite in the miniseries. It begins with Ahsoka being assessed on her skills by Tera Sinube, and overlooking are Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and arriving late her master, Anakin. Also as spectators are Deepa Bilabal and young Caleb Doom, otherwise known to most of us later in the Rebels series as Kanan Jarrus. Ahsoka passes the test with flying colors, but unlike all the other Jedi Masters, Anakin is unimpressed, mainly because he finds the test to be basic and unoriginal to truly see what she is capable of on the battlefield. Frustrated with Anakin's disappointment, she confronts him and agrees to take on any test he organizes for her, and thus a test utilizing the members of the 501st Legion, some of the best troopers under the command of Captain Rex, whom I believe receive ARC training. This training that Anakin set up requires her to intercept blaster fire coming from troopers, living and unpredictable sentient beings, unlike the usual test from earlier that requires the same from droids that follow programming to a fault. Only a maverick like Anakin would ever think so far outside the box, and outside the normal mindset of the typical Jedi. It's very reflective of how I previously pointed out Dooku's teachings having indirect influence on Anakin in part 1. Being that masters to apprentices in the Jedi Order have a parental relationship, Anakin now passing what he has learned from Obi-Wan by way of Qui-Gon in his own unique fashion to Ahsoka would make her Dooku's great-great-grand apprentice. With such an unorthodox testing taking a toll on her, Anakin reinforces why this is necessarily difficult by stating,
"This is about life and death,"
echoing the lesson her mother taught her in episode 1 as an infant. Only this time, now that she is older and has the ability to defend herself, Anakin's training is preparing her for the inevitable date when she must face death without fear like her mother stated. As the Clone Wars proceed, Ahsoka is now using 2 blades, sporting darker attire, and now adopting his training during her downtime off the battlefield to grow stronger, more durable, sharpen her awareness in order to be prepared for anything reflecting the influence of her master. After being knocked out by Rex, we can visually see Ahsoka's growth, evident by the length of her montrals and lekku, her height and demeanor as we time skip to the last day of the Clone Wars. Anakin's training, while it was not necessary to battle the Separatist droids, has indirectly prepared Ahsoka to survive Order 66, taking on the 501st with Rex free of his inhibitor chip, and stating to Ahsoka,
"Let's hope all that training pays off."
unaware of what took place moments earlier. Thus, the second lesson is learned. In the wake of Order 66, we bear witness to Ahsoka attending Padme's funeral at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Although she should be on the run, like her master Anakin, she can't help but be loyal to her friends, and comes to Naboo, which is under Imperial supervision in disguise, to pay her respects. While Senator Organa helps her avoid detection from patrol, he plants the seed of rebellion in her, even though she plans to relinquish fighting. Although she had already left the Order and was no longer a Jedi prior to the end of the Clone Wars, it seems during the reign of the Empire her relinquishing the fight is synonymous with relinquishing the use of the Force, until her instincts kick in to save a fellow farmer from being crushed. Once she is found out by an Imperial loyalist, she once again must face death while valuing life, even if it's the life of someone who wished no good upon her existence. The years spent as the apprentice of the Chosen One, battle-hardened and tested throughout a galactic-wide war, has made Ahsoka a force to be reckoned with, even after a year without practice. Defeating the Imperial Inquisitor who destroyed the farm with relative ease, but it's the way she defeated him that was most important. We can see initially she planned to meet this confrontation with aggression, but releasing her anger to a calm state, flowing like water as she manipulates the 6 brothers' attacks to inevitably counter his aggression with a swift and precise end. Once the skirmish has ended, seeing the Empire treat those who are loyalists the same as its detractors has reshaped her mindset to relinquish fighting and make the determination to join Senator Organa in the rebellion, because she feels the calling through the will of the Force. A calling igniting the perspective that it doesn't matter win or loss, things must be set right and balance out the universe. Thus the final lesson is learned, and she reinvigorates her resolve to fight. Witnessing the growth of Ahsoka throughout these episodes opens a lot of nuances to her development that many of us were unaware of. Since Dave Filoni personally foresaw her development during the Clone Wars series, it seems he has taken the liberty to make her the personification of his interpretation of the Force. Think about it. Although trained as a Jedi Padawan, she's not a Jedi. And the culmination of Togruta culture and Dooku's unorthodox views altered through multiple generations of Jedi, and finally being the apprentice of the Chosen One, when deciding to leave the Order, she did not do a complete 180 and joined the Sith like 2 of her predecessors. It's as though through many instances in her life, the Force was manifesting and manipulating her development to walk a path that does not operate in either extremes, but with balance, just simply walking the way of the Force, free of shackles to either order. And thus, this concludes my 2-part dissection of the Tales of the Jedi miniseries. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this show, and it was a breath of fresh air from the pollution we inhaled earlier in the year throughout live actions. What are your thoughts on Ahsoka's depiction in the show, and what did you think of Tales of the Jedi in general? Do you think we'll get a second season, or maybe a spin-off focusing on Tales of the Sith? I'd love to see what you all think in the comment section. Don't forget to leave a like for your boy if you enjoyed this video, and a super thanks if you were feeling generous during the season of giving. Subscribe and click that notification bell for future Star Wars content coming in the near future. And as always, you know the vibes. It's Kaizoku Sleven. Appreciate you.